Okay, we're going to get started. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many of you on the call today, especially so many people across the country and even overseas. So, it's awesome. We've had a great reception for this event, and we're really excited to get into the content because we think there's some excellent things to share with you today. Firstly, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. A little bit about today's call. So this webinar is being presented in partnership between ShiftCare and Sleek. Myself, Gareth, I lead the marketing in the Australian region for Sleek, and with me I have Daniel, who's our head of sales and customer success. Dan's going to be presenting in just a moment on how you can set up a business and the key considerations for setting up that business so it can remain compliant, as well as the things that you need to know as a business owner about reporting that's going to keep your business in check. With us today, we have some of the great people from ShiftCare. We've got Paul and Neil from ShiftCare, and they're going to be presenting shortly thereafter about once you've got that business up and running, how do you manage that business in a really efficient way so you can continue to provide a really high level of care in the NDIS and get that business to function optimally. So it's really exciting for our two brands to come together. It's their first time doing that. And we really hope that you get a lot of value out of the presentation. So a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone's already tested out the Q&A function. This is how we're going to be taking questions. So if a question comes up during the presentation, please just pop it in there. And we're going to endeavor to answer as many as possible in the Q&A function of today's session, which will be at the end. We're also going to make the recording available as well as a PDF of the slides. So you don't have to go ahead and screenshot everything. We're going to make that available to you, and that will be sent out via an EDM shortly after this call is concluded. So with that said, and without much further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dan, and we're going to take you through how to set up your business. So over to you, Dan.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gareth, and welcome to all. We hope this workshop for everyone is practical. You can take some things away. Thanks for giving us your time wherever you are around the world. So I might kick off with the next slide, Gareth, which is kind of the two objectives from my side, which is to help people take away out of this, how to start a business if you're looking to start one. And if you do have a business, or once you do start your own business, what you need to worry about when you have a business about staying compliant. So first, to kick off on the next slide, you'll see that there's a lot of businesses set up in Australia every month. In fact, there's 20,000 new businesses being set up on average around Australia, which is quite remarkable. Other countries like Singapore, there's 5,000 companies set up every month. Hong Kong, 9,000. So 20,000 businesses really shows that Australia, we have the entrepreneurial spirit, which is very exciting. The next question is then, I'm looking to start a business. What type of entity should I choose for my business? And you can see on the screen, these are the four most common types of entities. You've got a sole trader, which most of us know about. That is essentially you become the business, and we'll go into that a little bit more. A partnership, if you're looking to go into partnership with someone else who's also going to help you to run the business. You've got trusts, which Australians love to use because they're great for optimizing your tax. We have very high tax here in Australia. And so that's something that a vehicle you can use to put in terms of your structure to help you to run something efficiently tax-wise. And then lastly, you've got a private limited company, which is the most common type of company structure in Australia, and which is what most of our clients will set up. The one that you choose for yourself or your partners will dictate, as you can see down there, things such as your taxable income, your liability, so how much risk you take on as the business operator, and things such as raising funds or getting grants and registrations. So the first thing is I want to just quickly take you through the high levels of the sole trader. So the pros is it's quick to set up. It's essentially free. You can do it online. And what you're essentially doing is just buying an Australian business number, an ABN, which allows you to trade. To do that, you need to be either in Australia or have an Australian tax file number. So for our colleagues or friends dialing in from New Zealand, if you don't have an Australian tax file number, this one here is unfortunately not for you. But when you do register, it's almost instant, and that allows you to trade straight away. You become the business because your tax file number is linked to your ABN. And so any income is generated through that ABN is linked to you personally. And so you need to pay tax under your personal income tax, which is in Australia, you pay more tax the more you earn. The disadvantage though is you are personally liable because you are the business. So if you do have, say, for example, a company where you drive vans and you run over someone and someone sues you, they can take your house, they can take everything in your bank because you are the business. So the next one is a partnership, which again is a bit different. But again, it's fairly similar to the sole trader. Again, the two partners are taxed under their personal income tax. It's again linked to them personally, so they are personally liable. It's not a common structure we see often, but again, it's less costly to set up at the beginning. But most of the time, what we see is people who go straight to the private limited company. The trust is the next one. Again, I won't go into too much details other than to say they're very complicated. And also, it's also good to get good advice before you go and set up a trust, because they are expensive to set up and to run. And what we've seen is a lot of people set them up without even really needing a trust. And so what you're just doing is you're paying for something that's not actually optimizing your tax. They can be used lots of different ways and very different cost-effective schemes, but you need to get them set up the right way. So again, 3 different types of trust, and you can see that the pros and cons, and these slides will be shared later on for you to go into more detail. The last one is the private limited company, which, as I mentioned, is the most common. I'll go through a bit more about what you need to set one of these up, but you can see there, the main one is that the company itself is taxed in its own right. The tax rate for companies is 25%. And you can see down the bottom there in the little table, the personal income tax brackets we all have in Australia here. So the more money you earn, the tax man wants to take more money from us. So as a company, maybe if you're earning a lot of money, it's better to be in a company structure where you get taxed less, but also you get the benefits of limiting the liability to the company and not yourself personally if you want to keep your house. Okay, so that's kind of the different entity types. If we go to the next slide, thanks, Gareth. This is, if you are looking to start a company, what you need to essentially have. The first is you need someone to own the business, which is called the shareholder. This can be you as an individual, could be you and a friend. It could be another company that's going to own your business. You need at least $1 capital to put into the company. The company needs to have some money in it to run. And you also need to pay a government fee to buy the company from ASIC, which is the company regulator, which is $576. The next thing is you need someone to look after all your regulatory matters when it comes to the business. So when you buy a company, essentially you need to report each year. And this is typically what's called your company secretary or ASIC agent, or you can look after this yourself if you love admin. This is something at Sleek that we take care of for most clients, in addition to the tax and accounting requirements. The directors are also required. You can have as many directors as you like, but the requirement is at least one of them must live in Australia and reside here, being a local resident director. And also you must have a public officer who is someone from your company, typically one of the directors that has to reside in Australia, that will be signing any tax documents you submit to the tax office here. And then finally, every company in Australia needs a local registered business address. So again, for lots of our international clients setting up businesses here, they use our Sleek office where I am now. And this is again where it becomes publicly available for everyone to see where you live. So it's good to have it separate sometimes from your home, and it's where all your regulatory mail is sent. So those are kind of like the high level checklist of what you need. From what we do, we provide lots of the things, and you just pick and choose from us if we can support you in any of that. On to the next slide, please, Gareth. So just to finish off the first section, these here are some of the common questions or challenges that many of our clients bring to us when they look to start their business. Which name should you choose? Some words are restricted in Australia, so you need to make sure you check. Another thing is there's a lot of these name generators out there, which are quite cool. So if you're struggling to think about what name you want to use for your new business, go and just Google name generator, put in a few keywords, your brand values, and it will come up with some ideas. You can check on our website, sleek.com/au, if your name you would like to register is available. And then you can proceed to register that and secure that for yourself. The other thing is every company needs to have a business activity code, which is what the government uses to classify how many dentists there are in Australia, how many people are growing mushrooms, super specific codes. But the recommendation is you just choose one that's high level that allows you to do lots of different activities under the business. Because if you become too restricted, then you just need to do that activity. And the codes are linked to your ABN, and they have tax implications if certain industries are taxed differently. Do you need licenses or permits for what you're doing? So we're in an NDIS webinar, and I saw we had Patrick from the Healthcare Providers Association join us, who helps him and his team help with registration if you are looking to benefit from the NDIS scheme. So once you've got a company, you've got your ABN, that means you can trade, you can start invoicing and getting money. You can also go get a bank account, but you may need to register for a license. And so, for example, if you're looking to register for NDIS, you can go see Patrick and his team, or you can register for another license if you're doing something that's regulated to get a benefit of those schemes, or if it's a legal requirement for what you do. You need a bank account because every ABN has to have its own bank account in addition to if you're a sole trader. So if you register an ABN as a sole trader, you shouldn't use your personal bank account. You should use a separate one. And so at Sleek, we partner with a business called Airwallex, which offers free online accounts where you can go and just register as soon as you've got a company. Where will you work from? Probably from home. Otherwise, co-working spaces are good if you're starting a company. What insurances do you need? Most common are personal indemnity, directors and officers insurance. Again, depending on what industry you're in, it might be good. Insurance is always a good idea. It's always something that we leave until the last minute, but unfortunately, it's something that it's always good to know about before it's too late. What legal agreements might you need? Things such as shareholders agreements, directors agreements, these are all good to look into. Again, we're not a law firm, but we have very good contacts. So if you're needing anything, reach out to us. And lastly, the grants and the funding. So that's kind of the main questions you need to know about when you set up a business. If you go on to the next slide, please, Gareth. The next is when you have a company, what do you need to know to keep it compliant? And so the next slide here will show you the main government departments, which I've gone through at a high level. And then if you go through 2 slides, Gareth, for me, please. This scary graph here shows you all the reporting requirements for a company, meaning that every year you have from 1st of July to 30th of June, your financial year. You need to do bookkeeping and tax compliance. If you're registered for GST, you need to submit a BAS, a business activity statement, every 3 months. And at the end of the year, you do a tax return. So that's in terms of the deadlines. Again, I won't go into detail too much. The next slide, please, Gareth, just leaves you with some key takeaways, which is make sure that you're aware of how tax works, because you as the company director are responsible. GST you need to register for if you earn more than $75,000 in the financial year, which is where you need to submit the BAS. And then the last slide for me there, Gareth, please, is in terms of Sleek. So we help entrepreneurs, startups, people that are looking to start a company. As I've gone very high level, if you have a project you would like to discuss with our team, please reach out. We offer free advice. And then we can also support with the practical aspects of setting it up. Our mission is to make things such as this complicated accounting and tax industry ridiculously simple, both through giving you the answers and then also providing an online platform. We have a team that can answer the questions for you. Our prices are all on our website. It's fixed pricing. It's very transparent. There's no hidden fees. And we use things such as technology that everyone benefits from to make everyone's life easier, because no one actually wants to do the tax and accounting, but unfortunately it's like one of those things, death and taxes, it's a mandatory requirement. So that's all from me, Gareth. I'll hand back over to you to continue on.
Thanks, Dan. And just wanted to reiterate, if you've got a question, please pop it in the Q&A. We've been high level with this information. We want to give you a bit of an entree into starting a business and keeping it compliant. I'm sure you have lots of questions. Feel free to pop them in the chat. And if you're trying to get in touch with the Sleek team, you can just reach out to us through our website. We'll also have some more details at the end if you hang around. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Paul from the ShiftCare team, and he's going to take us through what it takes to manage a care business in the NDIS and how you can set that up optimally. So over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Gareth. Help if I unmute myself. Yeah, wow. Well, my head's already spinning. I think, there's plenty of information there to already get you started. And I think when Sleek came to us and said, that they would love to do a presentation with us, I put my hand straight up because my role here at ShiftCare is the customer success manager. So I actually help people when they are getting up and running on our platform. And I'm usually talking to people that have just gone through all the steps that Daniel just went through and getting that business ready to go and getting it up and running. But then you've got to go into that next challenge, which is how do I efficiently run my business and how can I start from the start being efficient without having to try and chase my tail, as well as running a business, as well as doing all my compliance and everything like that. I was really keen to have a chat and looking forward to going over some of the challenges that you will face as you start to run your business and in what ways software like ShiftCare can help you with those challenges. Let's have a look at the next slide. So I wrote down a few of the things that I regularly talk to clients about. So some of the challenges that you will get as you start to ramp up your business is, accurate collection of meaningful progress notes. So I put meaningful in there because there's two challenges really. One is getting your carers to actually write progress notes at all, and then when they do, are they actually well written with information that's actually helpful? As we know, we have requirements through NDIS and other programs to write logs of what happens on shift. So it's really important part of running a business is doing that. Readily available client contact and care management details. So yeah, and this really pops up. People that come in and I help on board, they're usually at a point where they've been going for a little while, and then they've just realized that what they're doing at the moment just is not scalable. And so this is essentially where software will be able to get you having the right systems in place to be able to create clients, manage all their details, contracts, all that kind of stuff, and keep it in a central location. Manually processing, rostering, and staff management, always a nightmare, especially as you start adding more shifts. And if you've got 24-hour care, that can really start to be difficult to run on spreadsheets and Google Docs and Google Sheets and stuff like that. It just becomes a bit of a nightmare. Payroll. So yeah, payroll is a big one. I spend a lot of my time talking to clients about payroll. I say the horrible word, which is shads, having to deal with the shads award and understanding what your requirements are on that. And yeah, the prone to error part is huge on the shads. And so, we do our best with ShiftCare and our platform to help you to make sure that you are paying your staff the correct amount that you should be. I think I've got another slide. If we go to the next slide, it's got a couple more. So yeah, slow error-ridden invoicing. So again, if you're going to all that trouble of creating a roster and you do that roster on a spreadsheet, and then that roster, you've got to do it all over again to do your invoicing again, because that doesn't talk to your invoicing systems or anything like that. So it really is a slow and just so easy to make mistakes and to miss invoices, and that costs you money, and that really puts your business in jeopardy. So that is a big problem. Remain compliant with NDIS on service delivery. So again, it kind of falls back to those notes again. You need to have good notes. You need your staff clocking in and clocking out so that you can see what time the staff were there. We clock the ability to log the location where they're at, get signatures for delivery, all that kind of stuff, things that you don't often think about when you're first starting up, but really important, especially as the NDIS starts to crack down on compliance and a few of the wild providers out there that unfortunately aren't doing the right thing for everyone else. And then you've got your late notice staff unavailability. So dealing with cancelled shifts, clients might be saying that they can't do shifts, staff will be saying that they can't go to shifts and trying to find other staff to fill shifts. And you're trying to do all this while you're also doing all your taxes and doing everything else. You're also probably, a lot of the people that I speak to, they're actually providers that provide care themselves as well as running their business. So they're very frazzled. They're very by the time they come and see me and talk to me, they're kind of saying, I don't have enough hours in the day to do everything. So we try and automate as much as we can. So yeah, let's have a look at the next slide. I'll probably go over some of the things that you will find in software and particularly what we at ShiftCare try to do to make things more streamlined. So we do have a system for price books, what we call price books and invoicing. So essentially, if you are an NDIS provider, you can bring in, we do have the NDIS price guide or their price limits as they call them now. So we can import them into our system. It's got all the codes and everything that you need. So when you are rostering on a shift, you will choose the service that you're providing. And so that means that you'll have accurate and fast invoicing ready to go when it does get to the invoice, because you've already told the system what time the shift is and where the shift is and everything like that. And so it already knows how it's going to invoice when you go to do the invoicing, which is awesome. The other feature there that I've got up there is job board. Job board's one of my favorite features in ShiftCare. It's really good for that part that we just spoke about, where I said when a staff member will come to you and say, hey, I can't work tomorrow, leave it to the last minute, of course, to tell you. But we do have a system where you can actually put the job up in the job board where you're pretty much advertising it to your staff. So it'll let them know on the app that there's a job available. Your staff will be able to see the job and they'll be able to say, oh yeah, I can work tomorrow. I'll do that shift. So yeah, really easy way. Instead of having to call your staff and you say, oh, are you available tomorrow to work? You can just put the shift out there and have your staff come back to you that are available. Let's have a look at the next slide. Rostering. So obviously, it's the thing that we do the most and the best. We like to think anyway. So, you know, we're called ShiftCare for a reason. So we've got lots of shifts. We do rostering. We've got recurring shifts. As we know, with a lot of the care that you guys will provide, that you will provide the same shifts every week, you know, on a Monday afternoon or a Thursday morning. And so the ability to make those recurring shifts visually, as you can see there, it's visually easy to see where all the shifts are. It's sort of our bread and butter stuff, the rostering side of what we do. Timesheet reports, so that really comes down to that whole SHADS award and payment of staff. We have a really great report of being able to see who's worked, what shifts, what time did they actually clock in, what time did they actually clock out, how are we going to pay them for that shift, do I need to pay them allowances based on the SHADS award, all that kind of stuff. That's all done through the timesheet report, and it's a really easy way to overview all your staff's hours for the week, so it's great. We'll go to the next slide. So staff compliance, it's a huge one. And again, it's one that I really find that a lot of people that start with us haven't put a lot of time into and are usually chasing their tails about, okay, do all your staff have working with children checks? Do they have their first aid certificates? When are they due to expire? Like when you're just using a Google Drive to store all that, it makes it really hard for you to keep on top of making sure that your staff keep their compliance up to date. And honestly, if you're going to leave it up to your staff, it's just not going to happen. So we have systems in our software that will allow you to put expiry dates on documents. It will send emails to the staff before the document expires to remind them that they need to provide a new updated version of the documents. And you can also see a list and reports all the time of whose documents are expiring and everything. It's such an important part of running the business. The next feature that I've got there is client signatures, and actually love this one because it's brand new. We've added this quite recently. So your carers will have the ability while they're out on a shift to get the client to sign to say that the shift happened. And again, it's really that focus that we're having at the moment on compliance and auditing and NDIS requirements to make sure that you won't have any issues in 6 months' time if a client says, oh, you know, the staff member never actually turned up to any of my shifts or there were issues. You're going to have that data right there ready to say, well, actually, we got signatures, we clocked in, we clocked out, we've got notes, we've got everything all within the system. And so you can easily go to the shifts and just see all that information ready to go. Whereas when you keep that all in different systems, it becomes a bit of a nightmare to try and track. Let's go to the next slide. Cool, we got more. So teams. So yeah, look, I mean, clients are going to want to tell you that there's certain staff members that they like to work with, or there may be staff that live around where the client lives, where you want to say, well, there's a bit of a team of my staff that will want to work with this client. So we have a system for teams that enables you to do that. And so when you go to roster on for a client, it will show you your staff that are in that team before it shows you all the rest of your staff. So yeah, it's a really handy feature there to do that. And also it helps with your rostering, because if you do grow, and I'll tell you now, you will grow, like all our clients, everybody that I've onboarded, when I come back and see them in 6 to 12 months, they've gone from 5 clients and 3 staff to 20 clients and 10 staff. And then another 6 months down the track, they're double again. The growth in the NDIS sector is incredible. And so being able to filter your rosters by teams and being able to just focus on sections of your business at a time is really handy as well. Client public info is a huge one as well. So having your staff have the ability when they go to a shift and they are looking at a client to be able to see what they need to know about that client. Does this client have allergies? Do they have pets? Are there certain medications that I need to know about? These are all things that you can put that are very easy for your carers to read. They'll also be able to read previous notes left by other carers that were on the shift from maybe yesterday and stuff like that. And this is all just super important to providing a well-rounded, proper care to your clients. Cool. Let's have a look at the next slide. So quick background. I've already going on a bit already. I'm going to get cut off soon. So look, we started in 2015. Our current CEO and founder, his partner works in the industry, and he saw her trying to set up some software that she was on, and it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't going smoothly. He thought, oh, there's got to be some better software out there. Decided that, well, actually, maybe I need to make it myself. And honestly, I've seen a lot of software, and to me, the best software that I ever see is software that's created for purpose by people in the industry, because they're not just trying to create a product to sell, they're actually trying to solve problems from the start. And so that's where ShiftCare really is. We're built from the ground up by providers and talking to providers and consulting with providers. I spend my day talking to providers all day and getting feedback, and I'm constantly telling our team how we can make the software better for providers based on their feedback. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do. So yeah, let's have a look at the next slide. I think that might be me pretty much wrapped up, I guess. Yeah, if you like what you hear about ShiftCare, if you're interested in having a go at us, obviously if you're just getting started, it might be a little bit after you've already spoken to the guys at Sleek about getting the company all set up, but they'll point you in the right direction too. But you can always jump onto our website at shiftcare.com. We do free demos, so you can always jump in and just have a play with the software as well. That's one of the great things as well. We don't hide behind a paywall or anything like that. Jump in, have a play with the software and see what you think, and I'm sure you guys will love it.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for that. It was a real whirlwind demonstration of how to manage a practice using ShiftCare, and we really hope that gives everyone a good flavour who's not using it today of how they can get a lot of value out of it. Some awesome questions coming through the chat, so we're going to do our best to answer as many of these as possible. Guys, I might just jump straight in. The first one is GST related. So Dan, maybe you might want to take this one. Clarification around GST for NDIS providers.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cyril, for the question there. So I think it was something we glossed over or jumped over quite quickly. So the regulation in Australia is you need to register for goods and services tax once you hit the $75,000 revenue, so income within the financial year period, which is typically 1st of July to 30th of June. We've had a lot of clients come to us using other accountants, or maybe they didn't have an accountant and they're earning more than that and they haven't registered for GST. And so the government just doesn't let you forget about that previous period. Instead, they'll get you to register backdated from the date of the first day of the financial year you should have registered, and they'll ask you to do the GST reporting for those periods. Typically, most clients register for quarterly reporting, which is that business activity statements. And so that means that at the end of each quarter, the four quarters in the financial year, you need to then report to the ATO how much GST you've paid and collected from there. So in terms of the component, it's 75,000 is the threshold to register. And then once you are registered, whatever service or goods you're providing in Australia, if it's a product or like an NDIS service, you should be charging GST on your invoice to your customers that are paying you. In terms of Sleek, we absorb the GST for our clients in our fees. So again, that's maybe a business decision, but you still have to pay once you hit over that 75,000 threshold.
Yeah, awesome. We'll just keep working our way through. Now, this one is about procuring an NDIS business. Munir's asking, what do I need to ensure I can procure a registered NDIS business? I've got to take over the ABN, ACN, as well as the NDIS registration existing. Yeah, Dan, I'm not sure if you've got specific experience in answering that one, but that sounds like it's something that could be in our bag.
Yeah, I think it's around purchasing a company. So whenever you go to buy a business, you want to make sure you do good due diligence. So look into the financials behind it, because as soon as you buy the company and you take over the directorship of the company, even though it's a private limited company, you take on the responsibility for, if there's been any employees, their superannuation, and also the tax for the business. Because in the end, even though the company might not pay the tax, you as the director will become liable for that. So that's the first kind of thing to always look into. What do the books look like? Are there any debts owed from the company that you'll be acquiring? In terms of taking over the registration, again, if you're buying the business, my understanding is the registration comes with the business, but that would be good to check potentially with someone like Patrick who's on here, or someone that does the registration. But when you buy the company, you take over the ABN, the Australian company number, the ACN, the bank account. That becomes your property as part of the acquisition of the business.
Great, awesome. I might throw this one open to both teams. If a person's not qualified to offer services, is the insurance valid? My immediate instinct would be that the insurance is not valid, but I'm just wondering if the ShiftCare team or Sleek team had a different perspective on that.
I mean, my gut feel would probably be the same, but I would always say that you should speak to your insurance provider to clarify that, because that's probably one for the insurance company. But it sounds like a bit of a grey area.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
I also agree.
While ShiftCare's got the mic, are you guys looking to do an offline feature for scheduling? Having to juggle staff with availability and changing support hours means that there are a lot of changes made when filling out the schedule. It would be ideal to have it all worked out before being made available for staff to see. Bit of a under the hood question for the product.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so when it said offline, I was like, oh, does that mean like not online? But I think what it means is essentially our publishing rosters or draft rosters functionality. So making you setting up a roster, but not having all the staff seeing it while you're making those changes, and then being able to just publish that roster when it's ready. Amazing news. We're starting testing on a feature to do exactly that next week. I think we're starting that. So we're rounding out doing some user testing, and then we'll be launching that for all of our clients in the coming weeks. So pretty excited to do that, because it is one of the highest requested features that we have on ShiftCare. So and again, a perfect example of it was one of the highest requested. So when the product team came in to us and said, what should we work on next? We said, it's the highest requested. Let's look at publishing rosters. So coming soon.
Awesome.
Just to quickly add on to that one, it sounds like the person that asked that question is already a user of ShiftCare. If you wanted to reach out to customer support and ask about being part of the beta program, it's literally probably days away, maybe weeks. So
great, awesome. Live updates. Question about changing an PTY LTD into a non-profit. This one could be a little more complex. How does that work? And is that possible? Dan, do you have an answer to that one?
Yeah, so not for profits is not one I touched on in the presentation there, but again, it's not super easy, because not for profits have like lots of exemptions around reporting. They all have different reporting requirements. So not easy. The recommendation would just be to set up a brand new company and use that as a profit entity, because when you set up either the not-for-profit or the company, what you get is a constitution. The constitution outlines the rules for how the business operates, whether it's profitable, profit-making. My recommendation would probably just to set up a new company rather than try and go through the structuring change, which would be very expensive, very complicated, because you still have the legacy of the not-for-profit business. That would be my recommendation.
Cool, awesome. Got a question from Emily for the ShiftCare team. For ShiftCare, are you in the future going to incorporate the ability to organize client files into folders? Another specific product-related question.
Neil, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we've pretty much finished the Publish Shifts project. And so the next project, which is being worked on at the moment, is that no ETA. I don't want to promise anything, because schedules can blow out, but you'd probably be looking at something worst case scenario, the middle of next year, but hopefully a lot sooner than that.
Awesome, great. You guys have a very engaged user base. Everyone's very clued into the product updates. Okay, now there's a couple here, guys. I think you can see in the Q&A with me, Munir's got a few questions about the product. Payroll, Shad's Award, combining them both under ShiftCare. Maybe I could throw this over to you, Paul and Neil. Do you want to try and birds with one stone?
So probably worth, I'm glad you asked Munir about the payroll and SHADS part in ShiftCare. So just to be really clear, ShiftCare doesn't do the SHADS interpretation itself, but what we do is we have tools available to help you to ensure that you're being compliant with the SHADS award. So we're not a payroll system, we're a rostering and CRM kind of system. And so we can also link to a payroll system like KeyPay that is SHADS interpretation involved in it. So you can get that from KeyPay when we integrate into that. Or with Xero, there is ways. I've done webinars on how to be SHADS compliant, and I'm all about education and learning the award and learning how to set it up properly. Once you get your head around it, it's not too bad to do, but we have the tools within ShiftCare to deal with that. Next question, too small NDIS business, can I combine both? Probably a tough one to answer without a bit more information. It kind of depends whether you need to invoice separately for them, or whether have you got two accounts with two different accounting platforms, like 2 Xero accounts. Can we export to that? So I would probably say reach out to us at the ShiftCare team. Maybe if you've signed up for a demo, and ask the guys when they reach out to you. We'll definitely be able to look at that for your specific example. I hope we do not have payroll system in ShiftCare. So yeah, we don't have a payroll system in ShiftCare. So I think that's good by what you're asking there. So yeah, the system ShiftCare doesn't do payroll itself, but we do export timesheets to payroll systems based on the hours that are worked on the shifts that you have. So yeah.
Cool.
Just to really quickly add to that, I think that most payroll software is agnostic, so it's not NDIS or healthcare specific. And so where you benefit from ShiftCare is that we will talk to most of those payroll software. So you can have a dedicated software to manage your business, from rostering to care management. And then at the click of a button or a couple of buttons, you can have the data go from there to your payroll and also to your invoicing, whether that be the same or different software. And that's really where the benefit comes from. But yeah, exactly what Paul said. It's payroll is separate to ShiftCare, but we work really well with most payroll providers.
Awesome. I'm going to kick one over to Dan. It's about selling a business. Could Sleek help in selling a business?
Yeah, we don't do sales of existing companies. Our expertise is in setting up new ones, and then if you've got a business, helping to manage it. I think maybe just to divert the question a bit, if you've got a company and you don't plan to use it anymore, you can deregister it if you don't need it anymore. The government fee to do that is $47, and we can support. You need to do a final tax clearance of clearing everything off the company, closing the bank account, and then advertise it with ASIC, the company regulator. You're shutting it down. It takes about 3 to 4 months to do, because you need to advertise to everyone you're going to get rid of the business, and anyone you might owe money to, you need to pay them first, which is why it takes so long. The other alternative is you can turn the company dormant, meaning you just don't have any transactions during the financial year, no income, no expenses, but you can keep the business. And some people do that because if you bought a company, you've got the name, you're the only one that owns it, you own the IP. So you might want to use it in the future for something. So if you're looking to sell it and you can't find anyone to buy it at the moment, you don't want to shut it down, maybe just turn it dormant, meaning just don't use it. And then the compliance or running costs are really low for the next couple of years until you do manage to sell it. So hope that helps. You might need to find a broker to help you to sell it, but we won't be able to do that for you.
Okay, great. That's an excellent amount of answers. We've covered a lot of them in here. I know Munir has some more specific questions, so maybe a good opportunity to follow up with the ShiftCare team. But with that said, I might actually kick us forward, and we can just to be mindful of everyone's time and get people out of here. We'd like to offer everyone who's joined the webinar with an offer to join Sleek. So if you get in touch with Daniel or myself or anyone through the team, you can get $150 off your first accounting package subscription. So nice little treat for staying to the end of the webinar. And just want to say thank you from myself and from ShiftCare team for being part of this webinar. It's been great to hear from both companies. We'll definitely look at doing some more in-depth webinars on specific topics. But just want to say thanks everyone for being engaged and all the great questions. As mentioned at the beginning, we'll be sharing a copy of the slides as well as the recording shortly after this is finished. But just want to say thank you from the team once more, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.